emotional game for a lot of people, but especially with you. And your last home game with Sam. I guess what's kind of going through your head and your family's head with this being the last kind of home send-off?
Yeah, it is. It's always an emotional day, and you spend so much time with these guys, and you go through a lot of ups and downs, highs and lows, over the course sometimes. In Sam's case, 5 years, and other guys, a lot in today's climate are a year, and but however long you have them, just the lasting relationships that you create. All these kids, I think, have very bright futures ahead of them. Certainly we'll do anything we can to help them onto the next path, whatever direction their life goes. And yeah, it will be an emotional day with Sam. And I don't know how we're going to handle it. Some of it for me probably depend on how Carol handles it. And but it's pretty cool. Our daughter got in yesterday, and Charlie be out there with us, and both his grandmothers will be out there. So it's pretty special to to be a part of this. But the great thing is we've got a lot of basketball ahead of us, and it's a lot of things can happen on senior day. The good thing is I've talked to our guys. There's going to be a lot of emotion in the building, and there's going to be a lot of passion and energy in the building. And we need to use that the right way. And it's something that you can use for fuel and feed off it, but you can't get too hyped. And it's just you got to go out there and perform and try to do the things that we've done all year that's made us a successful basketball team. And next week takes care of itself after tomorrow, and everybody starts with a fresh record. But the good thing is we put ourselves in a really good position moving forward. But yes, long-winded answer, I know, Robin, but yes, tomorrow is definitely going to be an emotional day.
You think about the past 5 years and just how the program has changed. What do you think Sam's contributions in a broader sense has been of kind of evolving the culture of the other side?
Yeah, Sam's been unbelievable in bringing this program, helping bring this program, and really raising the standard. And I'm really proud of him for that. He saw the worst of times early on in this thing as we were building it, and he went through some tough times with that. It started with his recruitment. I mean, he came out of high school at a really bad time with COVID, and wasn't really evaluated very well, and I think had a potential to get a couple, I thought, really good offers. But then the COVID year comes in, and seniors that got their extra year ended up going back, and that took away some scholarship opportunities. So, I guess maybe it was a blessing that it turned out the way it did for him, and to come in and experience the tough early days, but then to grow it and get a chance to get into the rotation. And, you see the record of our team when he's played significant role. And, it's all started in the Northwestern game after Bandamel went down, and, he's been a staple and part of the rotation ever since. But you look at all these guys, with Jamarcus being in the NCAA tournament his freshman year, Rink being on that same NCAA tournament team, taking a little bit of a step back the year that he was out, and now elevating us back to the tournament. So, these seniors, I'd say those three in particular that have been part of a lot of really good wins and successes, but Sam's seen it all. He's seen more than those other guys did. And, because he's been here for, I can't believe it's been 5 years, just how fast this time has gone. It's just flown by. And I don't know, maybe it's because the older we get, the faster it goes. Tom, am I right? Just kidding. But, it's, yeah, I guess, again, long-winded answer, but I'm really proud of Sam for how he's helped elevate this. And, you see all the things on the court that he does, but the chemistry that he's helped build, getting the guys together off the court, spending time together, which I think is so important. When you have a genuine care factor for the guy next to you in a locker room, I really think that matters when you're out there battling and fighting through adversity. And, again, Sam's been through, through a lot, but, he's been here for some really fun times.
You've said in the past that Bandamel wrestler group has been key to the culture change. Sam is, I guess.
Yeah, and again, I do give Griesel a lot of credit for when he came in with Emmanuel, and I really think if Emmanuel and Juwan wouldn't have gone down that year, I mean, we had something pretty special going that season as well. And But listen, it's all about taking advantage of your opportunity when it presents itself, and that was what really propelled Sam into the rotation. And I don't know if those things don't happen if he ever would have got the chance. That's how dumb I am. And, but that's what it's about. It's about taking advantage of it. But yeah, Greasel, Bandamel, I throw Derek in there that really helped us. Jawan obviously was here for a lot of it, and then Bryce comes in and Casey. I mean, so I think, really getting a group of guys in here that the fan base gets behind, whether you win or lose, I do think this has been a really easy team to root for, as was that team with Greasel. It was a hard-playing team that hit a lot of adversity, and then you find a way to regroup, and I think we finished with the best record in the Big Ten in the month of February and March, and, that's what it's all about. So, yeah, it's been a fun ride with these guys. We're certainly going to miss them, and, we're going to have to find some guys that are going to have to replace some really key pieces that have done a lot of special things in a Nebraska uniform.
Ranking Jamarcus through the fact that they both get this way on their Nebraska careers here on how many returns after both being gone from regular season not playing. Just how cool is that?
Yeah, I look at Jamarcus with his path. He came in, such a wide-eyed young player as a freshman, and was a little bit in and out. He always had the talent. He was a little bit in and out of the rotation. And then again, he was another guy that benefited from, you hate to say this, but when a couple guys go down with injury, and all of a sudden he's now thrust into a much bigger role as a young player, as a freshman. And then, as next year, he really helped us, I thought, lead us to the NCAA tournament, and then he made the decision to move on. But when he went into the portal, he left on good terms. And, I really thought the year that he had away, when he played pretty much exclusively with the ball in his hands, has really helped him this year in how his game has evolved and how it's developed in his maturity. That's the biggest growth I've seen in Jamarcus, is just how much more of a mature player he is. Going into his fourth year. And, it's just been awesome to have him back. And he talked about a lot of the things that he missed in the year that he was away from here. And he came back. And again, you have a guy back in your program as a lead guard that knows what we're trying to do every day. He knows both systems, both sides of the ball. He knows the culture. He said he missed a lot of that stuff in his year away. And, yeah, Rink, for what he went through last year, how difficult of a decision that was. I know, we've talked about it. There's been a lot of articles about Rink in that year. I mean, he followed everything to the letter and, just was unbelievably disciplined to get himself back to where he is right now. And, those guys want to go out with a bang. And, all those guys that are seniors and are younger guys, they're learning, and all the players that we added this year, it's just been a really good mix of guys. And I give the older players credit that have been in the program. Kale certainly is another guy that's been a part of this thing. Justin Bolus, even though he hasn't gotten a lot of time, has been huge for us and what he does every day in the practice court. And also just being a great kid and somebody that I think has really grown as a leader. So, all those guys, they set the tone. They let the young guys know, what standard we're trying to live up to every day. And again, I've talked a lot about this team. There's very few distractions with them. They all come in with a great attitude every single day. They're very coachable, when you get on them. And that's when you know you have a special group. But again, it all starts with those senior leaders.
What do you hope that fans remember decades from now?
Yeah, I think they'll always remember this team. That's the special thing about Nebraska fans, is when you have a group that is as special and I think relates as well to the fan base as these guys have. They're always going to be remembered, and they're always going to be welcome back. And, maybe someday, they'll bring this team back and recognized for some of the things that have been, first in the history of the program. And, I know we still got a long ways to go, and, hopefully there's some special moments ahead. But, this team's already accomplished a lot. And, are we satisfied? Absolutely not. But, this team, I think, will always be remembered as a special group of kids because of how easy they have been to pull for.
Do you relate your senior day experience with these guys? Or
I have in the past, but it doesn't usually end very well when I talk about my senior night. So no, I didn't mention one thing about my senior night.
You talk about response a lot with this team, how they responded this week.
Yeah, they've been good, and you know, just like they have all year, Mike. I mean, that's the thing. I'd be shocked if they came in and had any type of different approach or mindset than they've had all year long. That's, again, the thing that I think have made them so special is how even they've kept their emotions throughout this whole thing. And, you know, certainly we've had some ups and downs along the way, but, you know, for the most part, this team has been rock solid, and they've continued to do that.
Talk about channeling emotions about senior day, but there's other variables in here, which is the postseason implications, what happened in Iowa City, you know, with guys like Price and stuff like that. I guess how have you gone about just bottling all that outside stuff into channeling the right?
Yeah, I think if you make too much all that stuff, you just get them a little bit off kilter. So, listen, they remember what happened. They remember, they know what's at stake. You know, all those things, the variables, as you call it, is, you know, they know all that stuff. You know, certainly we go back, we watched a lot of clips from the first game, and, you know, we need to be better. You know, Iowa played great. They played they had a really good game plan, and you know, you saw the same thing against Michigan. You know, if Mara doesn't bank in that shot at the end of the game, I think Iowa wins that game. I think they beat Michigan. They've turned them over 18 times. So, you know, we need to handle that better. We turned it over too much the first time around, gave them too many second chance opportunities. And again, they're really talented, and they've got one of the top point guards in the country. So, yes, but all the variables, our guys know what's at stake. You don't have to make too big a deal out of it, because you don't. Again, you want them to stay the same as what we've done all year.
What changes defensively are you hoping to see with guards?
Yeah, I mean, he's a hell of a player. You have to do everything you can. We've got a lot of different coverages, and, you know, we'll adjust if we need to, which I'm sure we will at some point during the game. We've had adjustments, and our guys have generally handled that well.
On the topic of defense, what's been Nate Lenzer? I know does a lot, but on the impact on these guys that have gone through in their careers, what do you think the larger impact is?
Yeah, Nate's been he's been here, you know, every step of the way for these guys. And, you know, when you look at the evolution of our defense and where we are right now, I think we're fifth currently in defensive efficiency. And again, that speaks to getting guys back in here and guys that have high IQs that understand what we're trying to do on that end of the floor. But Nate is, you know, he's unbelievably consistent in his message, in his approach. And you see him on the sidelines. I mean, he never has a day where he's not the most energetic person in the gym. And, you know, you see him over there in the sidelines. That's how he is in a film session. It's how he is when he's putting in a game plan. When we do our stations, when, you know, myself and Ernie and Pat take the offense, and Nate and, you know, a couple of the other guys take the defense. But he's just so consistent in his message. And that's what makes Nate special. It's what makes him one of the best in this business.
You brought up Ernie. Does he still do all this, like, special teams stuff?
Yeah, Ernie's doing. Yeah, it's very important. Yeah, Ernie does, you know, special teams, you know, the other teams baseline out of bounds that we put in. He's really helped on the offensive end this year as well. And, you know, it's kind of how we've broken it down. I've done things a little bit different this year, and part of it is, you know, I think you guys know this. I've got a son that works for the Spurs, and, you know, that's what Mitch, their head coach, has done. He has an offensive and defensive staff, and, you know, that's really how we've kind of broken it down. Made Nate the defensive coordinator, and Ernie and Pat have been awesome for me on the offensive end as well, and, you know, really put some good stuff in, and the ideas that we had. He was the one that had the idea to put Frager in an ISO late in the Ohio State game. So, you know, those guys have been really good, and I've liked how that dynamic has worked out for us this year.
Yeah, no is not walking. Has there been any update about this situation?
No, that'll all take place after the season, Rob, and that's how the medicals work out. I mean, I think they're both no-brainer cases for he and Connor, and you know, we'll see what direction that goes.
Do you think you'll actively pursue medical?
I would think so. All right, thanks, guys.